Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk about, to conclude our presentation, the kind of data products that we are envisioning. And my colleague Ellie has started out by talking about some of these. So Rwanda has very much engaged with forest landscape restoration and also recently completed the nationally determined contribution. Of course, there's the NBSAP and the Sustainable Development Goals, and also Rwanda has one Ramsar wetland site, which requires regular reporting. And Rwanda is also embracing nature-based solutions. And so many of these different goals and strategies and action plans require biodiversity data. And as my colleagues have previously said, Rwanda did not have a simple or a single way to access biodiversity data for the country. And so we're really trying to orient the system so that it can address specifically those data needs. And I just want to give you an example. Last week I attended a workshop here in Rwanda for developing the monitoring and evaluation system for the this document here, the nationally determined contributions, which were finished in 2020, and now the government is developing the monitoring and evaluation system. And this nationally determined contribution includes biodiversity, and some of those have to do with forest cover and also indicators of the quality of forest cover, the quality of ecosystems, of course, are biodiversity data. So that's a place where we are trying to work with the government to make sure that they can see how to use the RBIS to develop biodiversity, using the biodiversity data to develop maps, for example, that can show that we have indicators or species showing that some of these systems are intact and contributing to the NDCs for the country. And the same with the landscape restoration. There is work going on to look at how to monitor land use change in land cover and the quality of land cover, like forest, for example, or wetland. And so that's also where we are trying to do some work to look at how we can make sure the government will use the RBIS in that. And another is the environmental impact assessments. And so from a recent workshop we had that Helen attended, the environmental impact assessment team, or I guess they're a group, a loose-knit group, a community called the Rwanda Association for Professional Environmental Practitioners, or the acronym is RAPEP. They attended the workshop and they became very interested in RBIS and how they could use it. So our team has agreed to work with them to provide some trainings on how to use RBIS specifically to incorporate biodiversity data into what they are trying to do with their reporting for environmental impact assessments. So I'm really excited about this. These are the kind of entry points we really need to make sure that the RBIS will really be used by stakeholders. And I think that's mainly what I wanted to cover. I just had a couple of other things. One is that we also in our system are really thinking a lot about sustainability. And I think many organizations that are developing information systems think about this. So we put it into the context of developing a community of practice. We're trying to connect with the country's biodiversity information facility and the annual biodiversity information management forum that happened to make sure that we have a cadre of people trained in biodiversity data management, and then also, of course, really building the trust for the data sharing, as Mapendo talked about. And excuse me, our data team is now in the process of developing some videos and some ways to train different user groups, like we're working with RAPEP, but also other data holders and data users to train them both on getting their data into a standard format, and then what kinds of products could come out of that. So eventually we could have this community of practice around data holders and data sharing, and then the data users. And I just want to mention briefly that this whole system, it is being developed by the Center of Excellence in Biodiversity and Natural Resource Management at University of Rwanda. And we are a team from several different institutions in the university. And I think that's going to help us build the sustainability of the system. So they're coming from ICT, also biology, and the Center for GIS. And then also we are working closely with Rwanda Environment Management Authority and with ARCOS in developing the system and making sure that it is owned by the end users. And our next plan is to develop a national biodiversity monitoring system for the country to ensure that data are continuously being fed into the system. So I want to thank you for your attention in our series of talks today. And I think now we can open it up to any questions or discussion that might be happening.